Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, August 23rd, 2021. It is 7 o'clock p.m. This is the regular City Council meeting for the City of St. Peter. We will call the meeting to order. Would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone should have a copy of the agenda. Are there any changes, corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up, we have the minutes from our August 9th, 2021 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 5 through 8. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next up, we'll address visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing no one, we will move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins in detail on page 9 and concludes with the resolution on pages 29 and 30. And when I get to item 4, I'll mention it now, we have an additional name to be put on. It's Jerry Lucas. So with that, the consent agenda, the following employee appointments are hereby approved. David Krasmarek for detective for $38.57 per hour. Richard Delestri for part-time bus driver at $17.05 per hour. Also, the bus and transit support specialist shall be paid an additional $1 per hour for shifts scheduled to start at 8 p.m. or later, and this is effective on September 6, 2021. We have the following license requests for temporary gambling from St. Peter Lions Club for 600 South 5th for October 26, 2021. The list of election judges is now, with that addition, 57 names that appear, and right now I will thank them for doing that. Item number 5, we have some surplus items. Most of them, or all of them, have to do with office, metal desk, credenza, and a couple different types of chairs. And plus the regular schedule of disbursements for August 5th, 2021 through August 18th, 21. Are there any questions or comments concerning the consent agenda? Mr. Voss.
I have a question on the bus driver's additional pay per hour. It says for shift scheduled to start at 8 p.m. or later. So if their shift starts before 8 p.m., but say they work till 10 p.m., do they get any additional pay?
Yes, that would be our plan. That happens very seldom. This is very targeted towards what we consider from MRBT perspective, one-offs. So an event where someone might utilize the transit in a more private setting, and then for Gus Bus. So that's the area that we target. But I appreciate your position on the wording, and we can certainly change that.
Yeah.
That is our goal.
I would recommend the wording be changed to hours worked starting at 8 p.m. or later.
Okay.
Because shift schedule just makes it sound like if they started at 7:30 and worked till 10,
Yep.
they wouldn't get it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, the consent agenda, as I say, appears on page 29 and 30 with the one change, with the hours worked from instead of, is that how you said it, Brad?
Hours worked from 8 p.m. or later. Yeah,
Okay.
that
All right.
sounds. Yeah.
With that change, is there a motion for approval?
That'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Blumenthal.
Aye.
Councilmember Barry Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have unfinished business, which we have none, so we will move to new business. And the first item up tonight, a couple of things with the police department staffing levels and the patrol sergeant position description. Chief Matt
Mayor
Rocco
member-
is here.
Mayor and members, while the chief is getting sat down, this is a memo that has 2 resolutions attached to it. You don't necessarily have to take them together, but it does have 2 resolutions attached. And please note that on your desk tonight was the job description that we failed to put in the packet. And so this is the job description that's referenced in that packet. Chief, please.
Yeah, I've taken responsibility for the job description updating to each member of the council. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Did we set your pay? We already have?
It's still in negotiation. No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Relating again to the police department staffing levels, as you know, through the consent agenda, we recently had a hiring process for an internal candidate for detective. There were 2 internal interests in that, and so there was a scoring process related to the application that was completed along with a letter of intent. And during this whole process, the civil service was also involved, but before their involvement and also after their involvement, I garnered a 3-person panel with 2 individuals that came from the outside, a chief of police and a commander of a detective unit. And so we sat down with each of those candidates, and they were scored, and additional background was conducted after that scoring, and then a recommendation was made to the civil service, as Mr. Mayor had mentioned, in regards to David Kurzmarzik. And then, are there any questions related to that detective process? Anything? All right. Moving on to the police department staffing levels, as you have been told by City Administrator Prafke, relates to the position title for patrol sergeant and the job description related to that position. The city has been very kind in allowing an additional patrol sergeant to come on to our department, again, not affecting full-time employee. This is going to be a process that is going to take an internal candidate unless there is no interest in that position, but we'll take an internal candidate. And again, it's going to be very similar to the process related to the detective, with the Civil Service Commission being involved. I'll again panel another oral interview board. There is going to be some conversations and interest potentially upon the completion, and if an internal candidate is chosen, there will be a physical and a psychological exam that will go with that process. And if affirmed by the civil service and by members of the city council, we'll move forward with that that position. So in regards to the patrol sergeant and the reason for updating there were a number of different reasons, specifically when it relates to now having 2 patrol sergeants. I think it was necessary to try to separate some duties for each of those patrol sergeants and identify those areas, and more so it was really outdated sort of for the movement of our department and how we look to and appear in the future. So that was some of the more prevalent reasons in looking at updating that job description for our patrol sergeants.
Okay. Any questions? Todd, did you have anything to add?
If I may.
Yeah, then we'll go to questions after that.
Mayor and members, on page 34 is the resolution for that staffing levels. The council may recall that for many of your departments, you provide staffing levels. That's an area for the council to control HR issues, which you are ultimately responsible for that. Again, as the chief said, this is not an overall change in the number of FTEs. This is taking 1 FTE out of patrol and placing it at a sergeant level to provide for 2 sergeants. Besides some of the issues that the chief articulated, I would like to mention that as your department continues its path towards a lot younger and in some instances less experienced officers, the concern and the goal that we have is to ensure that there's enough support for those new officers in performance of their duties. I see that from a city administrator perspective in 3 or 4 primary areas, one of which is that fosters their growth and we want them to be super successful. And so having that mentorship and that ability to call someone, work with someone who has that high level of experience can be very valuable for that. From a city standpoint, certainly we want folks that can do the best possible job out there, and we want to make sure that we have people in place that can help ensure that that takes place, and this is one way to do it. I think another thing that's very important kind of gets divided into maybe two subsets, one of which I hope that at some point in the future, this is an area where new officers that are coming into their first policing job can look at and say, man, this is where I'm going to get kind of the stuff that I want to be able to progress in my career. And so I think that's very good. And from a retention standpoint, everybody wants to feel like they have some support out there, and that this provides that opportunity on a more immediate basis. So I think those are 3 or 4 really good reasons, besides those that the chief mentioned, for a modification to those staffing levels. Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything more to say about patrol sergeant, but that patrol sergeant resolution is on page 33.
All right. Questions for the chief, or Todd, I guess, in this case too, on either one of these? Carrie?
I don't have any concerns about the change. I appreciate the chart that just indicates how the staffing will change and by those designations. I was going to ask or try to expand on, and Todd, you did a little bit of this, but having seen a big change in the average experience level within the department, so is that something that happened in the last couple of years due to retirements, or has there been turnover related to other reasons?
Yeah, and I think directly related to that, it was a cause of really retirements, and also related to the law enforcement and the struggles that some departments are having. We're not really getting a lot of experience for people to leave their current positions in their departments. I think the city has done very well in offering some incentives to do that, like lateral transfers. However, when it comes to having numerous amounts of hours of vacation and sick leave, that would be one reason. But getting back to your question, Ms. Johnson, it really relates to how young we are. We're going through a process right now to hire additional officers for my position, and also a school resource officer position. So, related to that, and when I became chief, I put out a questionnaire for each officer and really asked them pointed questions. How can we help you? What concerns do you have about the department? And it's, really where help is needed most. And all of them wanted a help at night, a person that has that experience and has that knowledge, either by procedure and policy. And so that's my intent with the patrol sergeants, that they will be on at night, because I'm assuming with this new hiring process for officers, they are once again going to be young, and they will likely have very little experience. So that is another challenge of having potentially 2 additional officers.
So I think I'm hearing you say that, so when you go out to hire, the pool of candidates is small, and so you're getting fresh candidates who've maybe not been with several
Correct.
departments or with the department for
Correct.
a lengthy amount of time, so you're having
Yeah.
to support and provide more
And I can't
mentorship.
reflect what we're seeing right now in this upcoming process that we have, but consistently, it's been that lack of experience and training, and maybe there's some part-time experience that really, in ways can help, but really doesn't help them the most when they come to a department this size.
And the patrol sergeants will overlap at those heavier traffic times or the evening times?
Yeah.
So they'll work kind of the same shift?
We've sort of looked at some schedules for the patrol sergeants on whether or not they're going to be, for example, we have a 10-hour shift, and perhaps they'll work 8 evenings on and then 6 off.
Okay.
But we'll be in conversations through the city and with the patrol sergeant works best for them, but we will have an overlapping time, and maybe that will occur at a busy time, and we might think of that as a Friday. And so maybe we have 2 sergeants on a Friday. And so I'm just really excited, and I'm hopeful that this is just going to lead us in just a positive direction and give the help that we need to those younger officers, as Mr. Prafke had mentioned, for their experience and that retention too.
I appreciate you taking a fresh look and kind of seeking that input too as you make changes that are
Yeah.
needed, and in response to a lot of it, I'm sure it's just adapting to
the changing environment of policing
Yeah.
and retention and recruitment.
It was a 4-page questionnaire, and sometimes you can scare officers away by the length of questions, but each one of them did that. So meeting with them individually and really hearing them and where they need help the most.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Chief, I have a request, and I know we don't put it on our website, but is there any way that you could send, when this all gets settled, send out an email, to me anyway, I don't know if anybody else wants to see it, attaching a name to all of these positions?
Sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
because there's so
That's a
many
good idea.
changes been going on, and I don't know who, I know the people, but I don't know who's doing what, and some of the people I don't know. But if you could do that, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely,
And I don't know if
Mr.
the rest
Mayor,
of
I
the
will.
council probably should see it at the same time, so.
There'll be a lot of new names, I foresee, in the near future, so thank you, yep.
All right. Anyone else, questions, comments? If not, the resolution adopting the police department position description, the patrol sergeant, appears on page 33. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments now? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Ziegler.
Aye. Resolution is approved. The next resolution has to do with establishing the authorized staffing levels for licensed officers within the police department. That appears on page 34. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions on this one? Any more? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Bruflat. Aye. Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Ziegler.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate
Mayor.
it.
Members of the council, thank you. Thanks.
All right, next up, we have Mr. Moulton for the Highway 169, 2299 intersection project preliminary engineering. Pete?
Mayor Zeman and council members, here tonight to ask you to authorize Bolton Mink Engineering to do some water main and sewer main design work for us. As you guys are aware, we are working on a plan with MnDOT to make improvements on Highway 169 from Jefferson Avenue approximately 1,000 feet to the south. That'll include development of new roadway, and underneath that roadway lies some of our older utilities. We've got 1960s water main in there that we've experienced a couple water main breaks on. Those breaks are very expensive underneath a highway of that magnitude. And as you remember, in 2009, when we did our work between Jefferson Avenue and Union Street, we replaced a lot of 12-inch water main in there, and we have eliminated a lot of problems. Our goal with having Bolton Mink do the design work here is to coordinate with MnDOT so that we can get these improvements completed in a timely manner underneath the new roadway and not impact their project and improve the transportation routes in St. Peter. The proposed plan would talk about developing a 60% plan, which is the normal MnDOT design criteria. So we would meet their criteria, get together with them and talk about and discuss the issues that need to be done there. And then by December, do final design so that they can bid the project in January and authorize the project at the time that they see fit. Their initial goal is to do the work in 2023, and so we've got a little bit of time, but we want to stay ahead in design. It does get into the funding queue for MnDOT, and we want to stay on schedule with our anticipated improvements. I do have a resolution on page 39 I'm asking approval for, and I'm available for questions.
Questions for Pete? If not, we have a fire call. It's late. It's late? Yeah, it's 7:20. We will let Mr. Johnson, if he has to go.
No. I'll go if they have a second page.
All right.
That means they need more help.
Okay, thank you. The resolution authorizing preliminary engineering for sanitary sewer and water main design for Highway 169 Minnesota Avenue South Frontage Road project appears on page 39. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved. Second?
Any questions now? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Harry Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noah.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zimmerman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Bluthart.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Pete again for pickleball.
Thank you. Mayor Zeman and council, as you guys are aware, your Rec and Leisure Services Director, Joey Schugel, and myself have been working with the Pickleball Association to get together a project that would work in the park system at St. Peter. We have looked at Veterans Park, where we currently have tennis courts, both a north complex and a south complex. You may be aware that the Tennis Association in previous work with the city had funded some lighting and court improvements down there. It's been many years since that association has not been substantial in development anymore. We've also partnered with the high school, which has kind of eliminated that need. But we have identified an area that is the south part of the complex right now that we could go in and do some work, get some contractor to come in and prep the area and resurface the area. The scope of work that we've put together is just resurfacing and improvements to the court, so we would lay that out. 2 tennis courts would come 6 pickleball areas. Our overall goal would be to provide netting that would prevent the ball from taking off when they serve or score a point. And in addition, what we would do is we've got about $8,000 in additional work that we need to do after the resurfacing is done, and that is develop bystanders, put those in, get some nets and some windscreen. So our total project cost is going to be about $28,000 altogether. Our goal tonight is to authorize Tennis West out of Hopkins, Minnesota, to complete the initial resurfacing in the amount of $19,730. This would be funded by equipment certificate money when we're done, and there is a resolution on page 42 that I'm asking for approval, and I'm available for questions.
Questions? Carrie?
So in the fiscal impact section, it says the St. Peter Pickleball Association is committed to providing approximately $12,000.
That's correct.
So have we ever had an experience where the association struggled to meet their fundraising goal or their committed goal, and what would we do in that case?
Yeah, I'm not aware that we've had anybody try to back out or anything like that. Usually when there's a passion of trying to make improvements, there's enough committed people that are moving forward with that. We've had a great experience not only with Tennis Association but with St. Peter Baseball. You know, they didn't initially have the cash up front, but they committed to a certain dollar amount each year, and they delivered on that. There's also a lot of options for the Pickleball Association, even as people get older or drop out of the Pickleball Association, is now that they've developed a leadership team that goes forward, they're looking at ways to raise money within the community. So they do have a substantial amount of money. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but it's about 2/3 of the total goal, so they have some that they'd have to borrow.
So we
initially
do
from
look
us.
at that when we're working with an association, what they've raised so far
Yes.
and how many
And
members.
how fast. Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Say, Pete, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was that this came up in our workshop, you had stated that it was about $40,000. Is therefore $28,000 now and 12 that they're going to be throwing in after the fact?
Yeah, we initially thought the resurfacing would be substantially higher than this.
Okay.
And so as we've probably talked, and maybe it's been side talk, but it's really about timing. If we only get one bidder and it's a tight project going into fall, usually that cost is going to be higher because they've got to put additional resources to make that happen. So we've had our feelers out there. Joey has actually been contacting a lot of the companies that do this type of work. We just happened to get real lucky with, not only did our ad get picked up by the company from Omaha or just north of Omaha, but the Tennis West group is not necessarily a company that we've worked a lot with. We've worked with another company that's their sister company, but these guys are working at Gustavus right now, and so they were here and could mobilize without additional cost. As you can see by the bids,
Right.
that's
Well,
very
that-
competitive.
Yeah, sorry. That's my question then. So apples to apples, this 28,000 is equivalent to the 40,000 you were talking
Yes, it
before?
is.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Questions? Ed?
Now, this extra 8,000, are we putting the nets up or is another company?
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
We'll see if we can handle the work that we're looking at and how it works into our timing. We've got to purchase the standards yet. We haven't done that yet, so we've got to go out and get some equipment. There's a little bit of our labor, mostly of that is materials.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? The resolution accepting proposal to install pickleball courts at Veterans Memorial Park to be funded by the 2021 equipment certificate appears on page 42. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Blueflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. That concludes our new business. Thank you, Pete.
Yep, thank you.
Next up, we have a executive session, closed session coming up for the sale of the former wastewater ponds. We will go to that, and in this case tonight, we will be coming back to open session to take up this matter after that. So we don't need anything else to do right now. We'll have reports and things like that, or final questions after we get done coming back to open session. So, the resolution calling for a closed session for the purpose of the sale of wastewater treatment ponds appears on page 43. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
Are there any questions, comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Blueflat.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Resolution is approved, so we will recess to closed session, and we will do that at 7:28 p.m. on Monday, August 23rd, 2021. And if we can get everybody moved, that'd be great. Good evening again. We are back from our closed session. It is Monday, August 23rd, 2021, and we are resuming our regular meeting at 7:43 p.m. And we will have one item that we, under our new business, and it is the sale of the former wastewater ponds. And Todd?
Mayor, members, as you know, this is on the east side of the Minnesota River, and the city's owned it
One for Barb.
since the early to mid 1960s. You've had this property for sale for now more than a couple of years. The information that we passed out to you, based on your previous direction to staff, is to accept an offer from the Warren West Revocable Trust in the amount of $325,000 for that property. Mayor, members, I can go through the entire memo for you, but you have talked about this a number of different times. The city attorney has reviewed the purchase agreement that was offered through your real estate agent, Whitetail Properties. The Wests intend to utilize this property and keep it, I guess, what we would term more in a natural state, the state that it is currently. And again, the recommendation is to accept the offer from the Warren West Revocable Trust. You've had 3 offers over the last 6 months. The council's indicated that this is an offer that you see as most desirous and benefiting the community overall for a number of different reasons. And so, again, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to provide additional information if the council has questions.
Okay, questions? I know we just talked about it in closed session, but yeah, it seems like a pretty decent deal based off of, from my perspective, that based on what we're getting and what the property's going to be used for. If no one has any questions.
The other thing, Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Sure.
the other thing that I'd mention as a part of the resolution is that it indicates where these resources would be placed. So revenues received from the sale would go to the Parkland Dedication Fund. This is direction that was provided by the council a couple of years ago when it was first anticipated being offered for sale. And so that's included as a part of this resolution.
More than a couple years ago now.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Any other questions or comments? The resolution approving the sale of the former wastewater treatment ponds to Warren W. West Revocable Trust. appears on pages 46 and 47 of the handout we were just provided. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or any questions now? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Councilmember Grossback.
Aye.
Councilmember Terry Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
And Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, that concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports. I'm first. I do not have a thing, Todd, unless you say something that I might interject on.
Mayor members, the only one that I was hoping to cover tonight is the push that we've been making towards e-billing and e-transactions. And so I've asked Sally to come and talk for a few moments. And we have some information that's included on the overhead. Some of this you might have seen before on the hot sheet or utility bills, but we wanted to provide an opportunity for emphasis on this. So Sally, if you would.
Mr. Mayor and City Council. As Todd said, you have seen this in the last few months of the utility flyers. We've been sending that out to people, trying to get them to go online and get their bills, and also they can sign up for paperless billing either way. We've been working with the community. We've also asked them for automatic utility payments. We have multiple ways of doing that. And all the people, all they need to do is go out to this website, stpetermn.nlake.com, put in your name, set up an account, name as it appears on your bill, your service address, and your account number. And then each month you get an e-bill saying your bill is ready. And what's nice with that is you don't have to wait for the mail service. So we'll be sending bills to Enterlite either Thursday or Friday of this week. You'll get an email on Friday probably stating, or at the latest Monday, your bill is ready to be viewed. It doesn't have to be paid, but you can go out and at least look and see what that's at, what your bill is that's due on the 15th of the month. So you don't have to wait for mail, because sometimes it can be 7-8 days after they send them in the mail. So we've had issues with that, especially if there's a holiday in the week. We've had issues getting bills to people's homes. They're postmarked, but it's the mail service. So this is an easy way people can go out and look at their bills. They can also, as I said, sign up for both paperless and they can get it both ways. They can get it paperless, they can look at it, but they can also get a copy in the mail if they want to keep it in their records and they don't want to print it at home. So you can get it both ways. I sign up for it and it's pretty slick. Also out on this website, they can sign up. We are now accepting credit cards, both online and in the office. We're getting into the 21st century with our demographics changing. More and more of our younger people are coming in and wanting to pay with credit cards. So we can do that both in the office and online. There's also a phone that they can dial a phone number and do it via phone. Right now, just for some statistics where we're at, we have a total of 4,436 customers that we send utility bills to. As of July 27th, 161 people have signed up for e-bill. So it's a pretty new system, but people are going out and doing that. Payments made online from July 27th to August 17th were 262 people of the total. So 5.91% paid online. We do offer bank draft, which Todd has up there, and we've had 1,830 customers. With COVID, that's increased significantly, and we're still seeing more and more people sign up for the automatic bank draft, which they give us their account number, their routing number, and we take it out of the bank on the due date. They don't have to come in, they don't have to send it via postage or anything else, so U.S. mail. So credit cards, payments made in the month from July 27th to August 17th, we had total payments of $36,714. Total utility bills were $1,532,978. So 2.4% of the total utility billings were paid by credit cards this last month. So it's slowly increasing. It's not huge, but it's slowly increasing. So that's what we have so far.
Okay. Sally, the credit card, is there still a fee?
There is a fee. It's a smaller fee because the city is picking that up now.
What's the fee now?
The fee is at 2.2%.
Okay.
And that was, the total credit card fees for last month was $807.
Okay. But the bank draft, there's no charge for any of that?
No charge for that.
Right. Okay.
So that's why in the utility flyer, we do push the
Backtrack.
ACH.
Yeah, okay. Anyone have questions for Sally? Hands are going up. Brad?
No. So clarification, the city is still picking up the 2.2% credit card?
We are picking up. We didn't previously, before we started accepting them in the office and online.
Okay, so is there thoughts of going back to assessing a small fee? I mean, I know, for example, like I pay my license, if I renew my driver's license online, I have to pay a fee for that. Is there thoughts about going back?
There hasn't been, because we do, if we absorb it, it stays at that 2.2. If we push it to the customer, there's a higher fee. So we're saying to be in the 21st century, that's just the cost of doing business right now. It isn't huge and it isn't costing us a whole lot. Plus, we know they take care of it and tell us if there aren't funds in that account right away. So if they're trying to pay online and they don't have the funds, either in their checkbook or on their credit card, it bounces out. I'm not doing a NSF check that they've written and then having to go and try and collect that too and back it all out. So we know before they even get there that it's not a good account. So we think it's a time savings for our people and everything else. So that's the reason why that 2.2, that $807 does make sense.
Carrie?
Just to piggyback off of that, I think I wonder if it does save on just like staff labor in terms of going after late payments, or there's less of that service that you have to provide if we make the payment options easier, including credit card. So maybe that 2.2% covers some of that.
It does. And really, the total bills, it was 0.05% was what the credit card fees were. So to even add it on, it's not like I'm having to pay for it because I'm on ACH and it's going to end up increasing my utility bill. I think it just saves time, and as we get more customers in town, my staff can do more. And we aren't sending out or trying to call them that we have an NSF check, so now we're adding another $30 on their account and trying to collect the past due amount and everything else.
And I think this is great. I was wondering about, so I know the flyer sometimes is what catches people with pertinent city information or like even events that are in town, because I know we do advertising space there. Is it pretty easy to still see the flyer? You'd have to log in, I understand, but to see
there's
the
a button up
flyer.
there to say see your bill or see the flyer. They're both there.
Okay.
And you can print both, so you
Yeah.
can read them, and even online, it's in color versus we print black and white, so sometimes some things might pop out better if you look at it online versus.
I know that flyer is just, it's like, it's a flyer, but it's helpful to share information if someone hasn't signed up for the hot sheet or doesn't check Facebook.
Yeah.
If I could also add, in addition to how Sally described its ability for someone who is already on the e-system, it's also included on your website, your general website as well, so people can check it out there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Question for Sally? Shannon?
I'll just say I signed up myself, and it was just as easy as Sally said, and I've been signed up for the automatic withdrawal for many years and have never had a problem, so I highly recommend both. It's very, very convenient.
Okay.
Especially if you're out of town or whatever, it just happens then.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about it.
Anything else, Todd?
Yeah, the only thing that I'd add to this, Mayor members, is that as we continue through budget processing with enterprise funds and things, if the numbers seem to get out of whack, we'll certainly be coming back to a fees increase dramatically or something, really goes haywire there. We'll certainly communicate back with you. And it is something that is included as a part of the budget that we put together for you as well.
And one other thing, on the pay online with your credit card, whether you're in the office or whatever, we have set it up so there is a $750 limit per month per account. So we don't have the larger commercial accounts coming in and trying to get a bunch of points or a bunch of whatever they want, rewards on their cards. So we have limited that the 750 basically covers our higher residential, but it doesn't deter from anything else. So we have set that limit out there too.
All right. Thank you, Sally. Todd, anything else to add?
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody have any questions or anything they needed or wanted to add? Ed?
Last weekend, we had or 2 weekends ago, they've had the Nicollet County Fair, and I'm also on that board of directors, and I'd just like to thank all the citizens in the community that came down there. It was a very successful fair, so thank you.
My 3-year-old great-grandson enjoyed it twice. So, anyway. Pete, I have a question for you. You don't have to come up. Water usage. Is it trending downward, hopefully?
It is not. It is staying about the same as we talked a few weeks ago.
Okay.
So we're
For,
still around 200%, about double what we pumped in January.
okay.
But your wells are handling everything nicely here because of the improvements, and so we'll work with the DNR as they ask us to do different things to go from there.
Okay. If you couldn't hear it, because I didn't have Pete come up, but, yeah, it's not going down, it's not trending down right now. So if everybody can put forth a little more effort in water usage, lack of water usage, that would be great. If no one else has anything else to add, we will look for a motion to adjourn.
That'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.